entertainmentbuddha.com.
Sorry, Walking Dead fans, but I can't open this week's most impactful scenes countdown in my usual enthusiastic manner, because the last episode, Thank You, was one of those that punches you in the gut and spits you out before you can even process what you just saw. The episode was a doozy to say the least, so let's get started counting down the most impactful scenes from Thank You. Quite frankly, the entire opening sequence should be considered one of the episode's most impactful scenes, mainly because it sets the tone for the episode. The scene itself features Rick and the others who were leading the Million Walker March scrambling to figure out where the horn they heard at the end of episode 1 is coming from and why it's going off. Everyone is obviously jacked up on adrenaline, so passion levels are high. One Alexandrian even dares to blame Rick for the horn and the failed Walker March plan before he gets his ass eaten like the fool that he is. Rick then picks his body clean while the other Alexandrians look at him in disgust as he fleeces their dead friend's body for supplies. Finally, Rick commands Glenn and Michonne to race back home and not wait for the others because they will not all make it, and that they will only slow those who know how to survive down. Again, this scene is key because it continues to show Rick's hardcore ways of doing things and how he thinks the zombie apocalypse should be handled. He's very callous now and all about business, but that's how he and his group have survived so long, so he just wants the others to understand this. Although, even his own group is starting to think he's gotten a little too heartless, which will surely play into the season's remaining episode. The second most impactful scene is a very brief one, but it plays into the tragic events that follow it and needs to be mentioned. Glenn and Michonne are tasked with leading a group of Alexandrians back to the community, and Rick told them not to stop and to leave those who slow them down behind. Well, within a few minutes the group is attacked by walkers and one dude gets bit while the other gets shot by another dope in the group who couldn't keep his cool. On their way through a small town, Glenn and Michonne commit to each other to try and help everyone survive, so they stop and formulate a plan to burn down the feed store to cause a distraction to keep the walkers distracted from Alexandria. By committing to stop and try to help the weak members of the group, Glenn and Michonne break Rick's rule, which as we found out, comes back to bite them in the ass. Literally for one of them. Rick continues to always be right even though his actions and attitudes may be off-putting to most people, so maybe his group should start listening to him after all. The third most impactful scene in Thank You is easily the biggest game-changing scene of this young season so far. Thanks to Glenn and Michonne not making a mad dash back to Alexandria, they get trapped in a small town, which leads them to split up. Glenn and his pet project Nicholas agree to go and burn down the feed store to help with the plan mentioned in the last scene. Unfortunately, the store has already been razed, so Glenn must rely on Nicholas to find another path out of there. The whole episode, Nicholas has been trying to redeem himself for being a pussy, but he continues to freeze up, leading Glenn to scold him to make a damn decision. Well, Nicholas's last major decision leads the two into a dead end, where they're surrounded by walkers while standing on a dumpster. When all hope appears lost, Nicholas again freezes up, but in a moment of mental clarity, he turns to Glenn and says thank you as he proceeds to blow his brains out. Just as you start to let out, "Yay, Nicholas is finally dead" yelp, you realize that this asshole's falling body causes Glenn to also tumble into the walker pit of death. We then see him screaming as walkers appear to tear him to pieces, and then the reality sets in that you just probably saw one of the longest standing characters bite the bullet trying to help a shithead. Life just isn't fair, my friends, is what I thought to myself as this emotional segment gruesomely played out. What we learn here is that once again, Madman Rick is right, and that the reason Glenn is now probably dead is because he didn't listen to Rick and he tried to help someone who couldn't help themselves in a world full of nothing but despair. Rick may be nuts, but his nuttiness is why he and his group have survived this long and why the Alexandrians are such a threat to his friends. They're getting soft and now it's costing them. Although, There are many theories that Glenn isn't actually dead. Many have claimed that Nicholas fell on top of him and the walkers were eating him, not Glenn. The intestines do appear to get ripped out close to Glenn's face, which wouldn't be anatomically correct, but he also cries out in some serious pain, so this theory may be a stretch. I guess Glenn could technically survive if the zombies somehow were content with only one meal, but I just don't see it. I know you can cover yourself in the scent of walker guts, but since Nicholas wasn't a walker, I'm not sure how his guts and blood could make Glenn's scent go away. Either way, it was a heart-wrenching scene, but one we've come to expect in The Walking Dead. Now, if Glenn would have just listened to Rick, we wouldn't even have to talk about this right now. Damn you, Glenn, and your need to redeem some shithead who tried to kill you multiple times already. Damn you, you righteous man. The final most impactful scene is the last one featured in Thank You. Rick has stuck to his plan and has retrieved the RV and is trying to figure out where everyone else is at. Glenn is MIA, Daryl is on his own but returning to Abe and Sasha, so Rick sits and waits. While waiting, the wolves come upon him, which I believe were a few that Morgan let go last week, told ya, but Rick is Rick and fucks them up like Rambo. After wasting another group like Scarface, Rick finds a jar of baby food, which causes him to realize that these freaks are the ones who are attacking Alexandria, and they've been in Rick's house. He goes to start the RV, but it fails him, and Rick begins to realize that his plan is shot and that all may be lost back in Alexandria. His plan to save the town has actually led to its destruction. That's some heavy shit. Well, that's all, folks. What an episode. If you like these countdowns, please make sure to share the video with other Walking Dead fans and remind them to make themselves a better geek one post at a time by visiting entertainmentbuddha.com on a daily basis. This is Matt Heywood signing off and hoping that our pizza boy buddy is not gone forever.